Welcome to the Women Get Funded show, where we are dedicated to empowering women founders to shatter barriers and achieve exponential growth and funding for their business. Join us on this inspiring journey as we illuminate the path to unlocking opportunities and prosperity for women-led enterprises. With only 2% of venture funding going to women-led businesses and a mere 3% of women-led companies crossing the $1 million threshold, these startling statistics highlight the need for change. I am Kofo Selman, 5-time founder, impact investor, creator of the Force for Good business system, and your host on this transformative journey. In each episode, you'll meet a trailblazing woman leader. You will meet venture capitalists, CEOs, successful founders, and experts in scaling business growth. Our purpose is clear. We are here to open doors and provide women founders with invaluable access to advisors, investors, and visionary leaders who share our commitment to creating a better world through women-led business at #WomenGetFunded. We see a future where tomorrow's Amazons, Mercks, Microsofts, and Home Depots are born right here, led by women. They represent the future face of business, and we're here to make it happen. I believe that women-led business is the most powerful, transformative force of our time. Together, we make the world better through business. Are you in? Welcome to #WomenGetFunded. We are so excited to be here. We have an extraordinary guest, a woman moving mountains, helping us break systemic barriers in the boardroom, raising capital, and claiming our seats as the powerful voice for good we certainly are as women. Our guest today is Julie Castro Abrams. She is the founder and managing partner of How Women Invest, an early-stage venture firm focused on high-growth, tech-enabled, women-founded enterprises, where she is working to change the fact that women only receive 1.7% of venture funding. We're busting that. With over 20 years as a CEO and board director, Julie brings extensive experience in supporting and identifying early-stage entrepreneurs. As the CEO of Women's Initiative for Self-Employment, I got to know more about that. She helped launch a network of over, get this, 20,000 successful women-owned businesses. She currently advises the Small Business Administration, the White House, Congress on economic opportunities for women. She's also involved in promoting corporate board diversity. It's a big area, right? And been a key player in driving legislation initiatives, including SB 826 and AB 979 in California, requiring parity for women and minorities on boards. That's big stuff. And, lots of awards. You've been mentioned in all kinds of books. You have such an outrageous podcast, How Women Inspire. It's how I got hooked on you. And, I just have to say, I was on your website today and I was reading, and it says, we are redefining women's leadership in the 21st century. How Women Lead is a 14,000 strong network of senior executives claiming their seats in C-suites, corporate boardrooms, and as general partners in venture capital firms. Wow. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Feels overstated. But honestly, I think of myself as like, I'm the orchestra conductor. I just say, hey, look, what do you care about? Let's all come together and let's change stuff together. So I'm an activator, maybe. But boy, is it fun to be part of this generation of us who have power, wealth, and influence like we've never seen before. Literally, this is the first generation and the world is our oyster. There's so much possibility. We've all got bruises from going through stuff, and I'm ready for us to change it for our daughters.
Oh my goodness. And it's so true. And you are, I mean, you really, really are. I mean, I personally feel a sense of activation from you. So I appreciate that. So I have my breaker question for you.
All right, I'm
All
ready.
right. So one of our goals at hashtag Women Get Funded is to curate and amplify the voice of women. So I'd love to know, what's one book written by a woman that has significantly influenced your life?
Oh my God, there's so many. You know what? I'm sorry, this is a little bit nerdy. But there is a book called Forces for Good. And it actually it looked at all of the highest impact nonprofits that were changing the world. And we all have still all these kind of like nonprofits should not spend more than 15 to 25% on fundraising administration. Like we've got a whole bunch of benchmarks we think are important. And they actually said none of that actually has any connection to actual impact. I mean, sure, it's fine for, governance, but
Right.
for impact, it really laid out what you need to do. What you need to do is what we designed here in our organization, which is policy. If you combine doing sort of policy work with movement building, which is like changing hearts and minds, and let's all get together and make sure every woman knows about getting on a board or every woman knows about investing. But then you actually do the thing, right? You invest directly. You place women on boards directly. That trifecta of those things, like all the ecosystem levers, if you can actually work on all of them at the same time, you have a better chance of moving markets. Now, we didn't do anything alone. We were with other leaders, but big time. I mean, in many ways, I feel like I also captured coattails. But we all together helped move the needle from 10% to 35% of women's representation on public company boards in just 10 years.
Isn't
That's extraordinary. And so when you just gave that number that I assume it takes your breath away every time everyone hears it or says it, the lack of investment in women-run companies is so breathtaking. But I think if we work on all three of those levers,
Yes.
and that's what I'm trying to do, I really believe we can change that in 10 years. And, it collectively all investing. I mean, there's male, female teams that get some more money, but, women are told you have to have a male co-founder or you can't raise money.
Yeah.
And that's not okay.
That's not okay.
It doesn't mean it's a good business decision. Really making sure that we have women, women should be at the table when financial and business decisions are being made or bad decisions are being made.
Right.
Bad cultures are being set. Coco, my daughter works at Uber. Think about this.
Mm.
The cost to that every investor, everybody who was engaged with Uber, we all watched the news when they fired Travis Kalanick.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Mhm.
What if they'd had a different set of venture capitalists around the table advising that young entrepreneur in his early days? I'm going to give him, give him a little grace there. We probably could have coached him to be better, but think about like the gravitas of a young entrepreneur, a young man.
Yeah.
And he's getting tons of investment from men whose egos are gigantic.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's who his role models are. What's that? No wonder why he was doing bad stuff,
Right. And singular focus, right? Like
Yeah,
just profit at any expense.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Well,
growth.
but we know that doesn't work because,
No.
human beings are what actually make you the money. So they're not quite disposable. That's like,
You're
and
not. Well,
that's
and
where
we're
like people think that, but that's like,
no, it's just not true. And we're no longer in an age where it's driven by a world of conveyor belt value in business.
Yeah.
It's about intellectual capital. It's about
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And we simply can't live in a world where we think we can dominate and just tell people that they're going to live with terrible circumstances and companies can make irresponsible choices and not be held accountable. It's just not that you can't do it. So women, I believe that one of the reasons why women are so necessary in is because we have a stronger sense of how to deal with multiple uh, constituencies, because we have had to deal with constituencies that we didn't have power over for centuries.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
right, we know.
The other thing, and I'm so glad that you exist and this exists, because women's leadership is in some ways an oxymoron. It's in the United States and our previous cultures. It's male leadership that women have been emulating. We need to actually, and we don't actually really embrace women leaders. We actually love to tear them down when they have a bump in the road. It is our favorite hobby, and that is so. It's so bad for all of us to continually, that movie, The Mean Girls, like, we all grew up in that culture. I've participated in it, Coco.
Sure.
I'm mortified, and I look back and think about some of the things that I did because that's what I learned. But we have to actively undo those negative behaviors and attitudes so that we see a woman entrepreneur and we're like, I see her potential. Right now, the data says we see a man's potential. We see a woman only for what she's achieved, and she has to have really proven it and over. Like, what if we actually really didn't have that lens and everybody got true meritocracy, a true shot?
Right. Right.
Black,
Well,
brown, women, men, all variations of us.
well, one of the things you do so well, Julie, that I like in changing that narrative is you have your credo. And I'm a big believer that purpose and values can really fuel an organization and keep it on the right rudder, right? Keep it going in the right direction. And every time we get on a call, whether it's because you're leading a call that has to do with helping women learn about boards, or it's on one of the LP calls for your venture fund, or whatever, it doesn't matter. There's always the credo. And, so it's be fierce. So I have to read these to our listeners, because I think because it sets the narrative away from what it was, where it's right. It helps us.
Countercultural is the opposite.
It's
right?
the opposite.
Commitment to be different.
Yeah. So it's be fierce advocates for each other, say yes to helping each other, be unabashedly visible. That one wakes me up at night, and reinforce her voice. I love this. So tell us all more about this. And for founders in particular, like I believe a huge part of why you are so successful and why you have this 20,000 women, that are part of your network, are because you have this really clear vision and these values and this credo. What do you think?
Well, I think it's I can see it in your voice, or like how you're talking. It is like a relief because it's so hostile and hard. And we just grow up in it, and you think maybe it's you, and you don't understand that it's a negative cultural frame that we've all bought into. And it's so sticky for the women who are part of our network when they hear it and then they see it being modeled over and over, because you're like, oh, people are actually going to fiercely advocate for me. My God. Can you imagine having a network of 20,000 people who literally say, Coco, I'm going to fiercely advocate for you. Or if you say, I need help, I need to find this kind of a person, people like, yes, I'm going to do my best to support you in finding that resource. And you do it for other people and we do it for each other. We love helping other people. It's hard.
I know you've helped me put board positions in boards that it's.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so for all of us, that sense of like, we all have an agreement. We're going to be better. This feels safe. And what we don't understand is all of that negative stuff. And there's a friend of mine who wrote a book. Her name is Deepa Parashothian, called The One, the Few, the Many. And it's about women of color. But really, it's about the cost in our brains.
Yeah.
All day long, you're filtering, you're wasting your beautiful life force and brain space because you're worried about all this negative stuff that happens just to women.
Right.
Happens is women get sick as a result. We're more
Yes.
likely to get sick.
Mhm.
Think about that. Because we certainly can't we often we count like, oh, women are doing more of the manual labor at home or whatever, the mental labor. Yes, but I don't mind doing the hard work. What I mind is all the other stuff.
Right.
If I'm gonna get knocked down and someone's gonna stab me in the back or have to protect myself, that's the stuff that just really takes your breath away. Or that sort of constant filtering where we're going like, oh well, I can't take up too much space because I'm gonna look like I'm bragging. But I have to be confident or I'm gonna see it as weak. So where's the perfect line? And it's literally impossible. No one can ever stand on the line. So I don't know about you, Coco. Have you ever gotten messages? And maybe you don't want to disclose that right now, but like someone's like, well, you're too big for your britches, or the opposite. You're too passive. We're not sure you can take this role because you're too whatever. Like
Yeah.
somehow you're always too something.
All the time. Right. It's usually I'm too big for my britches. It's always been that way.
Yeah.
You
And people
know,
are like, you really are thinking too big. Like if a man told you he's putting $1 billion fund together, they'd be like, great, good, go, bro. How can I like help you? That's exactly what people say. For a woman, they're like, oh, well, no, that just, I literally have, I still,
well,
and I look
what
at,
would
I'm like,
what
well,
would
you've never
happen?
done it. So
Well, and isn't it something like in a pitch, they're more likely to ask a woman, well, what would you do if all these terrible things went wrong? Versus with men, it's like,
yeah, it's documented.
what's your vision?
That's it. How big can men, well, literally, Harvard and others have documented, men are asked promotion questions. How big? Women are asked prevention questions. Think about walking around in your day. How do you become a great leader if you're preventing all the time? Like if you're ever working, if you're like, I'm a CEO and have been for 100 years. And so it's always, you kind of know it's like, you can't cut yourself to success. Like, let's be clear. And so, that sort of you can't prevent yourself to a unicorn company. It doesn't, and so as women, we have a moment, Coco, right now. We have literally collectively women have 50% of the wealth.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's a massive transfer that's happening. And the data says, well, it's 63 to 72%. However, so we have huge capacity for and we have more education than men right now. The women who Black women have the most, Nigerian women have the most education of all American. It's just interesting if you look at the data, right? And it's so counter some of the dumb stuff we tell ourselves. But you look at all that and you think, well, then why are we still, well, here's what's happening. And I'm in this space trying to work on some of this stuff. Structurally, women and people of color combined are actually only managing less than 2% of all assets.
Right.
That we take our retirement money or whatever money and we hand it over to somebody who's making the decisions where that money is going. So we have wealth now. Made the money, we have the professional background and the operating expertise, blah, blah, blah. What we're not doing is making sure we control where that money goes. So this is almost like we did all our work.
Right.
And to fix the systems. Honestly, we've got the operational business expertise. So, we've done the work, we got the education, we got the money, we got influence, power, and look how fabulous you are. Like there are other women that are like us, right?
There are.
Of us. There's a huge generation of us. Now we have to go fix the financial structures. And there's a couple people doing some things that in addition to me, that I'm super excited about. So check out the WCEO ETF, which is all women.
WCEO. Okay.
Yeah, it's electronically traded fund. It started a year ago. They now have a year of performance and they are outperforming all the other indices.
Is this part of NIA Capital? No.
That's actually Hypatia Capital.
Okay.
Now I'm going to talk about NIA, which is NIA GX, I think it is. NIA is actually ESG. So if you care about the environment, you care about sustainability and good governance practices.
Okay. Yeah.
IA a year ago started their first index fund. And then one other thing happened a year ago. And I started some stuff a year ago, right? So we got all these women who are actually trying to change that 2% number. Valerie Red Horse Mole started with some other people of color only, started something called Known Holdings. And the whole goal, and they have $6 billion of assets. Last I knew, probably more. I don't know where it is, but huge amount of money
Yeah.
that they're now managing. So an endowment or a foundation or others who are wanting to get their money invested in the right way. They're the ones who are advising or managing that money. And so we have new actors that are disrupting and saying and giving you a path that's easy.
Yeah.
So if you want to do like $50, you go put
You
your money in
can.
the ETF. Right.
Yeah.
There's some small and big ways, and it's direct. You're not
Yes.
going through somebody else, and they're not. We keep doing this thing where we hand over sort of we're like, well, you listen to your financial advisors as if it's their money. And
Right.
sometimes act like it's their money.
You're right. You're totally right. These conversations that go on, I mean, it's true.
So like, wait, I get to say if I
Yes.
want my money to go there. You know that, and money aligned with your values is what we need in this life stage. But it actually ultimately returns more money.
It does. It does. Well, and I think there's, as a founder and an investor, there are two great places that you can really invest. And one is, I love the venture thing. And you really, it had like been skirting around, and I've been doing some angel investing. But investing in yourself as a founder and putting yourself on the, really on the precipice of doing something great is what we need. I mean, the other challenge is that women founders tend to not grow as big, right? And they don't go after funding. And then when they do, they get turned down. So what would be your message to women founders? What do we need to do differently to get in the right places and position ourselves to be funded so we can grow?
Okay, well, first I want to say, beautiful, courageous women founders, you are absolutely not doing anything wrong.
Yes.
That society taught you.
Yes.
And we literally just share the story. If other people are telling you, don't, that you won't be invested in because of your big vision, only what you've done, why would you put the big vision out there?
Yes.
And you're going to get knocked down. You get knocked down by the people who are family and friends who love you, but are scared for you and have never done it themselves.
Totally.
So many forces and reasons why. So
Right.
we all, I hear, we love to blame women. I hear people saying, well, women aren't thinking big enough. It's like, well, yeah, let me tell you why.
Right.
And if
Right.
you only put 1 to 2% of the funding, I think I just saw last year, I think it was 93% or not 0.93%, less than 1%, I believe. Don't beat me up if I got that number wrong. I just saw a report and I haven't dove in. The numbers for 2023 are still pretty raw. But what, why would anyone think they can get venture funding if the numbers are so scarce? Like, honestly.
Right.
So, like, I don't blame anyone.
Right.
And
That's right.
that said, believe and trust in yourself. Build your groups of other women around you, and know that you're enough and you're right where you need to be. And you know what? There is nothing wrong with saying, right now, I have a kid with a disability, and I got this, and I got that, and I'm going to have a lifestyle business. It is people
That's right.
they
That's
smirk
right.
about it. It's like, what's wrong with that? You're freaking paying your bills. You're doing what you need to do for you. And if it makes you happy, great. So if you're living with integrity and aligned with your values, I think there's success in everything. The Women's Initiative for Self-Employment that I ran for a long time, we worked with low-income women, start their own businesses. They would come to us because they wanted to start a business. We didn't tell them to do it. Then we would give them all of the sort of, here's how you think about break-even analysis. We go through all the stuff, right? And then we would provide some microloans and maybe a match savings account, some other stuff for them. Success was having, 70% 5 years later, we're still in business with
Amazing.
2.5 full-time employees, themselves included, making, more than double minimum wage, everybody who worked for them. like for a low income woman to have that kind of, I own my own destiny. I don't work for somebody who abuses me and takes advantage of me. I can make my own hours if I need to.
That's right.
I make a decent amount of money. Maybe I can buy the building or my building where I live or my company. What is not successful about that?
It's
So
you're absolutely
I'm
right.
not sure that, the only definition of success is big.
Yeah. No, you're
If
right. You're right.
you could care and love for your family and have a great life, I think that's just fine. So I think I just think we beat women up too much. And I would say, if you really are in the mood, if
Yeah.
you're
You're in the mood.
to run
Exactly.
something big there are formulas for that too. And I think it's about confidence, setting a vision, not letting the people who have honestly, every time someone says something like a naysay thing to you, take a deep breath and just say, have they ever done it?
That's true.
Honestly, I look around like corporate women. I run nonprofits and I'm an entrepreneur, right? I start stuff. I'll have corporate women. Yeah, they've got a lot of money, but they'll say to me, "Oh, well, you can't do that." And I'm like, "Well, you haven't. So how would you know?"
Would
I
you
mean,
know?
run a department, like that's very different than being a CEO. Running your own thing is a completely different thing. I've made payroll. I've gone without pay. I've done it all. I've done every job.
And that's exactly right. I mean, founders create something out of absolutely nothing, right? And it's every little step along the way. So you get, I mean, how many pitches do you get from founders a
Yeah,
year?
well, we will get about 10 to 15 decks a week that we
Mhm.
go through. I probably see, 2 to 6 pitches a week. It depends on the week. So a lot,
Yeah,
it's quite a
yeah.
bit. I've done it for since 2000, 23 years. So I've kind of seen from
All
tiny
of
baby
it.
assets to the big ones. So I've got one that I think is gonna be whatever that the definition of unicorn, right? There's a great article that I think it's Teresa Gao just put out literally this week on unicorns. If you look that up, it's really a wonderful look at the history in the last 20 years of the growth in the venture and entrepreneurship and what we're seeing and who made the big businesses before and who's doing it now. And it's quite interesting.
So what are you looking for right now when you're looking in within your venture fund? What kinds of opportunities light you up?
Well, so there's the light me up and then there's the pragmatic side of things.
Right.
If you run a venture, a lot of people don't know this. If you run a venture firm, I raised money from people that I care about, who I don't want to fail, and it's my own money on the line. So I feel a lot of responsibility it can't just be what I like. And I'm just saying that because people will come to me and they'll give me an emotional plea. It's like, honey, you don't understand. Like, I have a lot of people's money on the line.
Right.
So I can be as I'm a very emotional, heart-filled person, and I know how to run the spreadsheet. So we have to be in a venture firm. It's a 10-year life. You make your investments. So you raise money and then you start looking at companies and
Mhm.
you evaluate them and do due diligence on them. And you do it in the first probably 3 years of the life of that 10-year fund. I have to return the money in 10 years times multiples.
Yes.
So think of if you step back and then put yourself into my shoes. I look at companies, I say, in 5 to 7 years,
Yep.
max, do I have absolute firm conviction
Mhm.
I get our money times 10?
Yes.
If I don't believe I can see a 10 times return, I absolutely cannot make that investment. 5 times return, not good enough because once you remove, like, fees and, I gotta pay the lawyers and the accountants, you got a lot of stuff to actually that dilutes it. That's not enough to pay people back and make money for them. And some people fail. So you also know that some of the companies aren't gonna work out and for factors that are completely out of one's control, right? Someone's dies, whatever, things happen, the economy. And so first and foremost, I have to see that. And how do you get there? Well, usually, and this is one of our requirements, it's got to be technology enabled because anything where it's like manually I'm producing, it's just expensive. The human hours, that's why people are so tempted to go offshore, I think, on stuff. If technology reduces that, and so if you can create something, and like I've got a couple companies we've invested in that we're investing in them to get to that flywheel. If you can get a company to the point where you don't actually have to even onboard the clients very much. Like literally, it's like, think about going onto Facebook. You don't have to talk to anyone to sign up for Facebook or sign up for Uber or whatever. Those are technology-enabled companies that are highly scalable. So that's first and foremost sort of like, I gotta see technology enablement. I gotta believe it's gonna have a big return. So that kind of means that generally a consumer packaged good is super hard. Like if you're selling a wonderful, like gluten-free product that I would purchase, that can be wonderful, but those are much harder. There's every once in a while, there's a little sliver of a moment when like, oh, actually they've hit this sort of critical point. I could invest now. But that's sort of part of the trick. Now, there's some other things we're seeing. If I make an investment in a company and the company is able to get like government grants because there's billions of dollars of climate money going into companies right now, and it's what they call non-dilutive, like the government doesn't own any of them. They don't have to pay the government back. That's kind of free money. Not really, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's actually a big win. So you look at like, is there a market wave? So right now, today, the United States just announced a huge initiative on women's health. This is a big opportunity in that market if it's real money. I'm waiting to see what the dollars are. It's nice when we make that announcement, but let's see how much money is behind it. If it's, $1 million, that's not going to do anybody any good. So, and of course I care about that. I care about climate. I care about women's health. So yay, double whammy, right? I would say the other thing that you really, you want to see is, certainly you're looking at the market and like what's happening. Like some things are now passe. We're just not doing them anymore. Some things like at a certain point, all the venture capitalists like, we're not doing any more dating apps because like at a certain point, like there was a lot of competition and yes, you might have a Bumble, but like, that kind of came in after the dating apps had already started and make money. But that's it's a super hard one to find. It's a little better when they call it a blue ocean.
A blue ocean, yeah.
Like when there's not a red sea of competition, it's a blue ocean opportunity. This is the great thing though. I run funds that only invest in women founders.
Yes.
Women founders that are underfunded are creating solutions the men have never thought of.
Yes.
That's a lot of them are blue ocean strategies, which is sort of like, oh, there we go. That's the big win. I'm sorry, am I going on too long?
No, you're good. No, this is exactly
the things that one thinks about, right?
No, this is important for founders because to get in and understand how an investor thinks.
Yeah. Now, I don't care where you went to school. Other people, people talk about that being like a thing. What I care about is that you have the right, you know how to get, and you got the right advisors and team. If you're trying to do something, do you know how to call somebody and get the right contact? Are you going to make a mistake and get the wrong vendor, or the wrong packager or whatever in a G company? Like, do you have enough insider knowledge and that you can really do a good job? And if other people said, yeah, Coco's got it, I got her. That's a good thing. And then I want to know that this founder, and I've made mistakes, and I want, so let's be clear. And I always, you kind of say, well, I learned that mistake. I'll never do that again. You're like, man, I'm 56 years old. I've made a couple mistakes, but I'm getting better, getting more discerning. The founder needs to be somebody who is hungry, has grit, is not defensive, isn't blaming everybody else.
Yes.
Who wants to grow and who isn't thinking of this as what I call the lifestyle business. That is a great business to have. It's not backable. You have to actually understand and want to get to the 10 times return more than I do. Like, I need you to be selling me and driving me, not me driving you. So as a venture capitalist, if I have to say, come on, Coco, where are my numbers? What's happening? That's not good. So if it's a hungry founder, not chaos, not urgent, not crisis, but rather I'm really, I know what I'm doing. I've got a plan. I know how to line people up. Uh, those are all I think that's kind of that's a good summary.
Yeah, no, and it's so important because I mean, I've listened to a lot of pitches, not nearly as many as you, but sometimes it's helpful. You said something that I think is really important. Having the right team, surrounding yourself with the right advisors, listening to those advisors, like, it makes an investor nervous if you have a strategy that's going to require a lot of marketing, go to market experience, and there's no one on the team.
Yeah.
Much of that, so like to have those right people
Yeah.
is going to be it's going to be a big red flag if you don't have it.
Well, a big green flag if you do, I guess.
And great flag if you do.
Sometimes I can help someone find people, but like,
Yeah.
it needs to feel like you can build that team. The other thing is, all that said, we had one case, well, a couple cases actually, where we're like, I love this. I love this founder. I love everything. And then they come to me and they've got no revenue or $100,000 of revenue or something. And they're like, yeah, my valuation is $20 million. And it's like, I can't do it.
Right.
You can't model out the returns. And so, women's this is hard. This is the moment that is really hard for me. And I feel tortured to Coco. Women founders don't get as high valuation as men.
Huh.
In general, there's data about that, right? No surprise because they're not getting enough venture funding. I have had 3 times in the last 6 months where I really wanted to make an investment and their valuation was unrealistic. And the thing that's a problem with that is not just that for me, nobody else is going to invest in it either.
Right.
And they got mad at me and they were like, women's valuations. And I looked up on this and this is how much we should be valued. I'm like, that is not my read and I can't do it. Come back to me if you get a lead investor and you have other investors and I'll come in and close out the round.
Right.
And they literally never were able to do it.
Yeah.
Because they didn't read the market financials in the right way. If you can't raise, if the valuation is too high, and that means I don't own enough of the company,
Right.
that when you sell, let's say, you had $100,000 in revenue. Let's say you get to like, $10 million in revenue. That sounds like great from 100,000 to 10 million. But if your valuation, when you sold it to me was $20 million, it doesn't work. You'd have to get to, many hundreds of millions of dollars. And do I know that you're going to get there? And is there a path to get there? So as a really early stage investor,
Yeah.
there are hard moments like that when you're like, I know, honey, I know, I wish I could tell you that I could, but this is a $6 million valuation. This is not a 10 or 15 or $20 million valuation. And they've a couple, and I've said, I can't do it. Come back to me. And a couple of them have come back and lowered a little. You got to stick with your guns. I got to make the best decision for our investors. It's the bottom line. I have no choice.
Absolutely. Well, I want to pivot just a little bit on why not all venture firms are the same.
Yeah.
Right. And so if I'm a founder, why would I want to work with how women invest? Why would I want to take money from you and your fund rather than another one?
Well, first and foremost, for women, I won't invest in men. So that's the only people we're talking about. Well, one, they get on the call and sometimes they cry. They're like, I've never pitched to all women. And that's so overwhelmed. So that's kind of it just feels better. Like people, like we get you, we know you, we are you. We're really kind too. We're not those brutal, rough investors. We're the ones you want by your side when times get tough.
Yes.
So all that's nice and well. I have a network of 20,000 women like Coco. Can you imagine if I can pick up the phone and call Coco, who's already committed to the credo, and I say, hey, can you help me with what this founder needs? She'll say, yeah. And so that's that's the biggest reason why you want our money. The other one is I write for Forbes. I do a podcast. We do events all the time. You get huge visibility.
Yes.
With us if you are our founder. And I literally was just talking to a founder yesterday who's using a super scientist. She's adorable. She's got adorable personality too, but she really defines herself as the nerdy scientist. And she's doing cell encapsulation therapy. All right. Anyway, whatever that means. Like, biochemists, I'll give you all this. If you want a couple PhDs in biochemistry, will help me evaluate it, which was kind of fun because I'm a little nerdy in the science world. But she basically was like, I've always been terrified of public speaking.
Wow.
I need coaching. I want to get my thought leadership out there. So for her, I could introduce her to a couple pharmacy, execs, and that can help her. But I'm not really going to be able to help her with all the science stuff all that much. I mean, I can, but that's what she wants from us.
Yeah.
It's really the coaching and support and cheerleading and visibility so that she can really be seen as a leader in the science world, which is going to help her with this company. So, yeah, there's lots of ways. It's
Yes.
just you have the firepower of a huge network of women. It's pretty beautiful.
It is. It's extraordinary. Well, and it's, I see it happen all the time, right? Where the network helps each other. You don't even know it's happening, Julie.
I don't. It's so fun. That's the happiest when people are like, no, that Coco got me an introduction and I got a board seat or
well, I've just filled 2 board seats through for two nonprofits of mine. It's so much fun. And I just so appreciate, your time today. I'm wondering if you have a lasting final words of wisdom for women founders.
Make sure that you keep going back to your center and find you have to have grit, but I kind of know you do. I know you're working hard. It's that sense of reflect that, when you meet some people and their energy just makes you like want to lean in because they know they're in the right place. A lot of us we get beaten up around for all the right reasons. There's no blame here. Make sure you've done the work to understand if all the hard stuff is making you shrink your thinking or be a little but a little off-putting or a little defensive or angry. Like that, none of that attracts people. You want people to be attracted to you. You want to attract energy. I don't know. I think, think big and do your hard work and make sure you know your numbers. Yeah, sure. But I think what you want is people to lean in and want to help you and help you be successful. That is literally invaluable.
And there's so many wonderful women out there now, and especially in this How Women Lead community who are leaning in to help.
Yeah.
So I thank you, Julie, from the bottom of my heart. You are just an inspiration and catalyst. And so thank you so much for everyone for listening in today. We hope you have a wonderful day and go make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Are you ready to build a business that leads in both impact and profit? Discover the Force for Good book, a guide for purpose-led leaders who want to accelerate impact, scale, and profit. Pre-order your copy today at www.aforceforgood.biz/book and receive immediate access to 30 plus valuable tools for you and your team. Join the Force for Good movement. Pre-order your copy now at www.aforceforgood.biz/book.